There's 11 participants. Are you happy all to start? Hello and welcome to QAAFI's discussion panel. And look, I'm very excited to be here because this is something that's first of all new to me, but I'm sure like all the panelists here would be really enthusiastic to share their wisdom and all of their insights from all of the hard work and possibly life-saving work that some of them are even doing with you guys to, sort of help inspire you guys going into a field in agricultural biotechnology and also with the actual pathways, the scholarships available and the opportunities out there. So yeah, could you guys please give a warm round of applause to the panelists here? So I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. So the University of Queensland acknowledges the traditional owners and the custodianship of the lands on which we meet, so the Yagara and Turrbal people. We pay our respects to the ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to the country. And we recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society, and especially within the fields of agricultural biotechnology. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we jump straight right into the discussion. So for those of you on Zoom, please submit your questions through the Q&A feature and we'll be answering them at the end of the discussion. We've got some time at the end to go through all of the questions and answers. We'll be sending you a recording within 24 hours. So all of this is being recorded, so don't worry if you miss out on anything or you have to duck out in the middle of it. We'll be sending you that recording. And yeah, at the end of the day, we really want you to tell us how we did we really want you to tell us how we did with this whole event because we want to be hosting more of these events regularly throughout next year, again, for you guys. So there will be a feedback survey that we'll be putting on the PowerPoint slide at the very end. It would be very greatly appreciated if you guys could fill it out at the end of the session, just to let us know how we did and what we can do to improve. But yeah, there's a short video because look, if you're to ask me what the Queensland Alliance for Agricultural and Food Innovation does, I know like what they do, right? But I'll leave it to the QAAFI comms team to really share you this story as to why they started and all of the big impacts that they're having on like the world right now, because I'm sure that they'll be able to tell the story far better than I ever could in person.
Queensland has a strong track record of quality, clean and green food, challenging tropical and subtropical environments.
They can see us on camera, but I think that's playing right now. Because it's like, on Zoom, you can share screen. That's like the shared screen.
The University of Queensland has created a large group of outstanding scientists working to improve agriculture and food industries in Queensland and globally. We apply cutting-edge technologies to meet the global challenges and the potential of agriculture and food production in the tropics and subtropics.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
We apply cutting-edge technologies to meet the global challenges and the potential of agriculture and food production in the tropics and subtropics. We translate fundamental science to applications and industries, and harness information technology, nanotechnology, and biotechnology for sustainable agriculture and food production. Our science spans the food supply chain from paddock to plate. Coffee and UQ attract the best people to study and collaborate with us. Together with our government, industry, and our research collaborators, QAAFI is helping meet current and future demand for safe, sustainable, and nutritious food.
And that's all of the life-saving work they're doing. But like, don't get me wrong, but they are doing so much more behind the scenes. Just from talking to these panelists before the session started today, they're doing so much more that wasn't encompassed in that video. I really like to highlight that throughout this session today. So let's get started and come meet our panelists. But before then, just a quick introduction on the different centers of QAAFI. So they have these 4 centers: the Center for Animal Science, Center for Crop Science, Center for Horticultural Science, and the Center for Nutrition and Food Sciences. So not just all about farming, they're more so about using the plants in a wide variety of settings. So let's get started and introduce the panelists for today. So the first panelist I'd like to introduce is Professor Ala Tabor. So she leads the Animal Biotechnology Group at the Center for Animal Science in QAAFI, and she's been doing it since 2010 at the University of Queensland. She is a research-focused academic with a very strong background in industry engagement associated with animal health and agricultural biotechnologies. So her research interests are associated with the application of omics to, first of all, develop molecular diagnostic and genotyping methods. Second, study gene function in relation to virulescence and host pathogenicity of infectious diseases to develop new effective vaccines. And thirdly, to identify biomarkers and study microbiomes associated with improving animal health. Now, it's amazing because she has over 100 publications with 3 full pending patents for 2 different anti-tick vaccines and commercialized diagnostics assays and tools. So together with the SCMB Biotechnology Program and SAFS, she developed UQ's Agricultural Biotechnology Field of Study within the Masters of Biotechnology program in 2020. So if you guys are Masters of Biotechnology students, any of you out there, then she's definitely the person to speak to. Oh, yes.
Just say hi.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
That's great. The next person I'd like to introduce is Mr. Harry Lamb. So Harry's a 2nd-year PhD candidate at QAAFI in the Center for Animal Science. So Harry grew up on a small cattle property north of Brisbane, where he developed a love for agriculture. He completed his Bachelor's of Biotechnology and Chemical Engineering at UQ in 2019, and he loves combining his passion for agriculture and background in science. So Harry's PhD project investigates the feasibility of on-farm DNA sequencing to predict the genetic merit of his livestock. So I'd just like to say hello.
G'day all, thanks for having me.
Cheers. And yeah, the next person we have to introduce is Yastika. So she's currently pursuing her biotechnology honours at QAAFI for the Centre of Animal Sciences. So she started in July of this year, and her current project encompasses designing a bivalent vaccine using CRISPR-Cas9 to potentially curb bovine respiratory disease in the future. So she's engaged with several student-led clubs and societies at UQ. She was the secretary of the Biotechnology Society this year, and she really loves keeping herself busy with multiple extracurricular activities. And some of her hobbies include reading, gymming, and playing badminton. So yeah, would you like to quickly say hello?
Hey guys, how you going?
Next person I'd like to introduce is Miss Chian Ten Ong. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes, perfect. So Chian is a 3rd-year PhD student working under the supervision of Professor Tabor, Dr. Connie Turney, Dr. Grier Bohansen, and Professor Ben Hayes. Her PhD project focuses on investigating the relationship between cattle reproductive tract microbiome and cattle reproductive performances from different aspects, including the cattle fertility, pregnancy outcomes, susceptibility towards infections, and fetus survival. Additionally, Chan utilizes whole genome long-read sequencing to investigate the differentiative genomic characteristics between a lot of the subspecies. So Chian completed her Bachelor of Biotechnology honours at the University of Queensland in 2014, and she worked as a graduate research assistant in the applied agricultural research in Malaysia during 2015 to 2017. She then worked as a research officer in Singapore from 2017 to 2018, but because of her love for Brisbane, she found herself back here at UQ. So she's passionate with research, particularly microbial genomic research. So she loves to work, but has learned about the importance of taking rest. She loves spicy food, which stimulates her appetite during summer and warms her up during winter. So give the audience a hearty welcome.
Hi everyone.
So the next person I'd like to introduce is Miss Emily Mantilla. So she's a third-year PhD student with QAAFI's Centre for Animal Science at the University of Queensland, and she's done a lot of work to help put this event together. She's a part of a multidisciplinary research team with expertise in bioinformatics, genetics, parasitology, and immunology. So her doctoral research is on investigating host biomarkers associated with cattle tick resistance. She's actively involved with the QAAFI Student Association, serving in the executive committee. Emily is originally from Quito, Ecuador, and received a Bachelor of Biotechnology with first-class honours from the University of Queensland in 2017. She's a strong advocate for girls and women's participation in STEM and co-created the podcast Illuminata, which highlights the stories of women in agriculture to inspire the younger generation of agricultural scientists. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, and I hope you enjoyed this event. It's been a pleasure having to organize it with the biotech team.
Okay, then the next person I'd like to introduce is Miss Charlotte Rambler. So Charlotte is a PhD candidate at the Hickey Lab at the Centre of Crop Sciences at QAAFI. Her research is part of an international project funded by the International Wheat Yield Partnership that assembles a world-class team of leaders in root research and wheat genetic improvement. So she's now currently studying the root system of bred wheat to develop different root ideotypes better adapted to a diverse panel of environments and soil profiles to optimize root systems in wheat. She is half Italian and French with Spanish and Armenian origins. Furthermore, she co-founded a podcast called Illuminata along with Emily, where they highlight women in agriculture sharing their stories to inspire young girls. So currently she is also a young science ambassador for Wonder of Science, where they're promoting STEM culture in Queensland schools. So I'd like to pass the mic on to you.
Hi.
And the last person I'd like to introduce today is Mr. Albert Shenzang Wong. Great. Albert is a final year PhD candidate at the Centre for Crop Sciences at QAAFI. His project delves into analyses and techniques combining fields of both plant physiology and molecular biology to understand the roles of plant architecture, genes in sorghum. So the project will provide information on how these genes can be manipulated in those plants and other field crops to facilitate the customization of plant architecture to adapt to drought-prone and other harsh environments. So Albert completed his bachelor's and honours degree at the University of Tasmania. And prior to the commencement of his PhD, he spent a few years working in the industry sector with agricultural and biotechnology companies. So I'd like to quickly just pass on, just say hello and introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me.
Great, so yeah, to get you guys started off today, I just wanted to run through, and each one of you as well, what motivated you to pursue a degree into plant and agricultural science? Because look, from a lot of people that I've spoken to, they really may not be fully aware as to what plant biotechnology involves or agricultural science involves or the whole process behind it. So what motivated you, first of all, to find out more about plant biotechnology, but also what makes you love the field so much?
Yeah, sure. And definitely animal biotech or biotechnology in our case, because I'm currently doing my PhD there. But to be very brief, when I was doing my bachelor at UQ, there were so many options for us to do. Back then, the majors could be either chemical biotech, plant biotech, molecular, drug design, innovation and management. So to me, it was a really good opportunity to just explore a really broad category of subjects. Particularly, I love biology. Molecular biology ended up being the field that I specialized on. And I'm quite happy because the amount of skills that I learned throughout my honors year really set me up to now pursue my PhD, in which I've been able to further develop and learn many more stuff. So, okay.
Hey guys, so I am still doing my honors. I just started. However, I'm currently doing my molecular biotechnology, and the reason I chose QAAFI was because I was doing a lot of dry lab work in IMB previously, and I realized it's not my thing. I would prefer working in a lab. So that and obviously, given the COVID circumstances, virus intrigued me even before the COVID era. And then I realized that I have this undying love for animals and I wanted to do something for them. And yeah, that's when I contacted my supervisor and I got this project where I was got the summer project and I loved working with him. And yes, now I'm doing my honors. So that's from me.
Yeah, so I got into agricultural science basically because growing up on a farm, I sort of saw firsthand what everyone has to deal with. And particularly in Australia, we've got quite a harsh climate. So I was quite passionate when it got to my honours about pursuing something that could help me make a difference to the farmers themselves. So help the farmers through droughts, help them in the good times, that sort of thing, and really make an impact in that area. So that's what I was passionate about.
Hi. So for me, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. So I never planned to be in agriculture. Like at the beginning, I wanted to be a musician, but I discovered during school that I really like biology. So I wanted to be a vet, but I started doing vet, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the blood and all these things. So I switched on food science and I really enjoyed food science. And this led me to do a master in biotechnology. So in Italy, because I studied in Italy, there was like the opportunity to do animals, like biotechnology to animal and plant. So since I did a lot of animal science and thing, I wanted to go for a change. So I decided to do plant science. So I specify mostly like in abiotic and biotic stresses in plants. And I did my master thesis in Saudi Arabia. So there is this big university and it's just like focus in science. So it's like a small city where you just study science. And I got this project to the Center for Desert Agriculture. And then I realized that I wanted to do a PhD and I really enjoyed the research world and agriculture and plant science. So since it was really like a lab, I decided that I wanted to be something more applied. So I did my PhD currently. And so we're doing a lot of field things and it's really hard. It's really, really hard, but it's really rewarding. And it's at least I'm doing something real and I'm developing this wheat that they're going to be in this breeding company. So it's like actually something real. And yes, it's a great word and I really enjoy it. That's it.
Hi. So for me, I love science in general, and the reason why I choose I'm more focused in plant biotechnology is because when I can't deal with blood and stuff, so but I like to deal with try to in a crude way play God, edit genes and see what it does to the plants, and plants doesn't cry, so so yeah, they don't bleed and anything. So yes, that's one of my motivation, not only trying to edit genes, but I'm trying to also study what some of the gene functions, what they do to plant, and how we can utilize this kind of technology and modify plants that can be create many uses for plants, for example, thrive in different environments or produce very biochemical pharmaceutical products in plants as well. So these are just some of my passion that drives me why I want to do PhD in crop science and with coffee. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Chen. So I do love biology. When I was in high school, I scored the least for biology as compared to chemistry and physical with physics. So I guess that is the true love for biology. And why I came into agricultural science was because my dad told me there will be food crisis in 2050. And that was what I always remind myself as I make different decisions. But I would say that motive slowly is fading away. What drives me the most now is I can see agricultural science being translated to the field very quickly. Like what we are doing in the lab on the computer can be translated at the field, be applied at the field, very quickly, and that has been very rewarding to me, and that it's my current drive for now for agriculture science.
Oh, great. And yeah, just to follow up on this discussion, why a PhD in particular? So this is like for the PhD students, like why a PhD? And now that like, you know, you guys are like underway in your PhD studies, how do you think that that has shaped you, or how do you think it's benefited you personally or in like the research field?
My story can be very discouraging on that. Just listen to it. So I had work experience. So after my degree honors, I went into research department in the industry. And I worked at 2 different places, and both of my bosses told me like, we can't promote you anymore. You have reached the brim. We need you to have a certificate in order to go further. And I do see myself going further in this field. Like I want to do more for the agriculture science. That was back in Malaysia and in Singapore. And yeah, I need a paper, and hence I decided to do a PhD. Reality. And it has been great.
So I think my experience, I can relate well to Chen. It's very similar. So I have a few years like working experience in Singapore as well. And then I think that's maybe it's the culture, it's the mentality or what, but it's what it is. Like they really put a lot of emphasis on the qualification that they want. And then like if you don't have that qualification, whatever you say, they don't like take it seriously. They will think like, oh, it's just another opinion. That's all. So that's one of the motive like why I came back. But yeah, various reasons. Actually, I wanted to finish like after my honors. I think I should have done that. Like after my honors, I should have continued with PhD, but I didn't do that. I went back, and then I was thinking maybe it's better to get some work experience, which actually I never regret now. I think it's good to have some experience, and you know how the industry works and everything, you know, like different work cultures and everything. So I think it already adds on to like, it makes me more mature when I start my PhD now, and PhD itself, I think it also shapes me how I think how to solve issue as well. So it's a very fulfilling experience, but at the same time, it can be very challenging with you have a family with you, like in my case I have. So but it's a nice experience, yes.
So for me so I decided to do a PhD when I did my master thesis in Saudi Arabia, and I really enjoyed the research. So I decided that I wanted to do a PhD, but I didn't know in what. So I finished my master, I graduated, and I didn't know, I know like I wanted to be in plant science, but as I said before, I wanted something more applied. So I start sending random emails to everyone all over the world, and my current supervisor replied to me, and he offered me this internship with him, not paid. So at that time I was in France. So I had no money, nothing. So I just flew here, and I did this internship because I knew that it's going to be something important, and I knew that it's going to bring me somewhere, at least for networking. It's very important networking and know a lot of people. And so I did this internship for free. And after, during my internship, he talked about the current project that I'm doing my PhD on. And so I went back to Europe, and after he contacted me, I applied for the PhD, and I got the PhD. And it's been, I don't know if it's a great experience, but now I'm my final year, so I'm a bit in a, it's like I'm having multiple personalities during the day, so it's like it's hard, but it's very rewarding because it makes you grow personally, and also, yeah, it's a challenge for your life, but and like you get the chance to work with the most amazing researcher here in QAAFI in the agricultural, because they are the best, one of the best in the world, and there is so much going on, and it's the future. Agriculture is the future, and at the end of your PhD, you're a doctor, so that's cool. You can be called like a doctor.
Wonderful answer. And yeah, what about yourself, Harry?
Yeah, so going through undergrad, so I went through undergrad here at UQ, did my honours with QAAFI. So I've been here for 7 or 8 years now, which is a bit too long. But I'd never thought about doing a PhD until I did my honours, and I just sort of landed in this a fantastic lab working on a fantastic project. And at the end of my honours, my supervisor sort of asked if I was interested in taking on another project that was a pretty incredible opportunity. So I jumped at that. But in terms of why you should do a PhD, there's not too many opportunities a person will get in their lifetime to just focus on learning new skills and developing themselves for 3 to 4 years. If you go out into industry and tell your boss that you're going to, take a day to learn a new skill or something like that, they're just going to laugh at you. So a PhD is a fantastic opportunity to, target the things that you really want to learn, the new skills you want to pick up and stuff like that. And a great opportunity to just develop as a person. So I've loved it. Like every single day, I love what I do.
Perfect. And finally, Emily.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
Oh.
I was the same case. After finishing my honors, I took the time to go back to my home country, Ecuador, and that gave me the time to reflect on, okay, I have done an honors. I was lucky to be able to do my undergrad with a scholarship from the government of Ecuador. And I knew that I had this opportunity, like with honors, you pretty much can go straight into a PhD. With another, like if you apply to the different labs, they might be able to offer you a scholarship. But the problem, of course, was then, okay, I need to really define what I'm interested on. I know I love research. I know that I would like to continue on this. So the possibilities back then, thinking of my skills were, really endless. So I remember applying to a few master's programs in Europe. And I was lucky that Ella took me in her lab, offered me the scholarship. So for me, it was a no-brainer, like go back to Australia. I loved it there, and just being able to go on with a full ride scholarship, it was the best option for me. And not only because for the first time I will be working on like real applied science to the big industry in the animal science field. For me, it was the opportunity to also develop those skills, and you might probably find yourself at honors. I think that's the very basic introduction for most students to science. The PhD is where you really enhance those skills, and you, as mentioned before, you get to work with some of the best researchers in their field, and back then you could have the opportunity to travel overseas, go to conference, and get to engage with people in your similar field, people that have authored the papers that you often read. Obviously, COVID has changed that. For most of us, probably 2/3, if not a bit more, doing a PhD in a pandemic, but it has not, I think it has reduced any less the enjoyment that we have had, and we've been able to use this and shape it into a very unique experience. Yeah, definitely getting through.
Perfect. And the next question is for those people who are not at that stage yet where they're looking to pursue a PhD. So mostly like the younger people out here. So this question is directed at Jessica. So what made you choose an honors degree? And for all those people currently doing their undergraduate, should they pursue an honors degree?
Well, should they pursue an honors degree? It totally depends on themselves. If you like, so UQ gives you an option to do your honors in industry or in research. So you got to understand what you are inclined towards, what you like the most. But if you don't want to do, you have to work somewhere. So if you want to work in an industry, honors years is an extremely amazing experience that you'll get. But yes, if you are, for example, me, I'm very, very interested in, I'm very curious about a lot of things, and especially the things that I do, I'm very curious, and research is the way to go about it. And that's why I would personally want to do my PhD too. But and why QAAFI? Yes, as I mentioned already, I was very intrigued by viruses, even long way before COVID hit. And also I was very interested to know how to design vaccines. As I did molecular biotechnology, I like biochemistry and I really enjoy what I'm doing. So that's why.
Oh, perfect. And the next question I wanted to ask to Professor Tabor. So plant biotechnology has come a long way since since humans first started in the field. But where do you think it'll be in the future, at least like 10, 15 years from now? Like, what are the topics that future students should be getting excited about? What are the topics that people should be starting to look into now?
Only plant?
Oh, plants. Yeah, plants and
I don't work on
agriculture.
plants. They don't move. Animals move. More interesting. And plus, I kill my plants at home, but my dog is very healthy. So just to give you an idea. The future. When people talk to me about what they should be studying, say they're doing the undergraduate now, I do mention bioinformatics as something that you should pursue. There's also agribusiness is something that you could sort of also do. If you did agribusiness with a PhD, you'd be very employable outside academia, but in industry. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
might have an academia path, but that's not the only path, which is what bothers me about sometimes when people do PhDs, everybody wants to stay in academia. Well, it's not possible, right? So, and everybody shouldn't stay in academia either, I don't think. So I've met a lot of people that work in, for instance, a company up north called AACO have employed geneticists, people with PhDs to help them improve their cattle. So there's like real jobs out there. So the future, it's much easier to make transgenic plants than it is transgenic animals. There's a big push, there's a big voice out there to make plant-based meat. That I'd be very cautious of that because the production of the plant-based meat apparently is not as simple as what everybody thinks. Like, it's more complicated than having animals. But so you see, there's a lot of companies out there sort of talking about it, but just be cautious of that. I'm trying to say that I'm not sure that plant-based meat is a big future. I think there's a percentage of people that will, like, if you're a vegetarian, why do you want to eat things that taste like meat? I actually don't understand. But there's a reason why you don't eat meat, so I don't understand it. But so it might be just people seeing an opportunity to make a business out of that. I'm not quite sure. I know people that work with companies and they direct research. So you really kind of have to work out what your personality is and what you think you might like to do and where you might like to go, even when doing your PhD, and make sure you get those skills in the PhD.
Yes, and then
That makes sense. Like,
yeah, it does.
don't go at the end, oh, I didn't do that. Well, it's in your power to get the expertise that you want.
Yes, and
Really think about that. I try to tell my students that, well, what do you want to have at the end of this? Like, and it's different for everybody.
And one thing you point out at the very start of your response, I'd like to highlight, because I find it very interesting, is that you can't just have everyone going into academia, and like the future of academia and the future of just biotechnology will be completely different. Where do you see the future of like QAAFI and just biotechnology research? Where do you see that going, at least in 5 or 10 years?
Upwards. To predict what might go upwards, so it's really hard, I think. I'm not very good at crystal balling, if that makes sense. Climate change is influencing things. I mean, there's things out there that are not new to any of you, I don't think. Try and find what you see out. I mean, you need to read, keep aware of what's happening in economies, and in, you know, particularly plant. I think you have more about that than we do. There's a lot more modeling done in plant research, it seems to me, because of crops and so on, and they don't move, so you can. But
yeah. Yes. Yeah, and then the next question I wanted to ask is in regards to going from the lab to the field. Like, I know so many people out there that probably would be wondering, how do a bunch of scientists sitting inside all day like realize what the field is like, or realize how the translational aspects work? So could you guys step out like what that process is? Would you like to start, Emily?
Sure. I'll just get you to click next. So as you can see, guys, in this slide, at 1 to 2%, how we have a few of us featuring there from the lab into the field, and more recently this year having the unique opportunity to engage with the actual farmers and producers. So For those of you who might not know, there's a big event called Beef Week in Rockhampton, where we had the opportunity to present the outputs of our research. And I think that's when it, for you, it sets in, whoa, the importance of my research. It's, and the way that I have to use these tools, this output that I'm trying to produce to help someone. Because out there, research things for producers, probably you will find it very like complicated to explain what I don't know, science you work on. So you have to get those skills to get your research output out there in a way that they can understand and they can see the value of your research on. So here I show you a few of us, but at the same time, this opportunity was very exciting for me because I had never engaged with directly with people in the agricultural industry. For me, it's literally being in the lab or doing some work in the office, and this was really, really great.
Oh, perfect. And
I started working with primary industries, and I was doing my PhD part-time in the Faculty of Medicine. So I remember going to lots of talks where they would say they want cattle to have the same diet as kangaroos so that they survive in sort of very dry conditions. And I just said, why don't we just eat kangaroo? Like, it sounds like a lot of effort. And they just said, have you ever tried to muster kangaroos? And I just went, oh, right. So it's really useful to talk to producers, is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so I think the translational side of things for me has come a bit more naturally because that's my background and that's what I love. So I love talking to producers. I love going out. Unfortunately, I don't get to go out to the field too often, but when I do, I really love it. For me, it's more been the science side of things that I've struggled with because I wouldn't say I'm the best scientist, but yeah, got a passion for agriculture, so that helps.
So I don't have much experience in communicating with farmers, but in my research, what we're doing, like my lab, my group, what it's doing is trying to, sort of things, help the farmers with new technologies and new, like, for example, we're using drones in the field you can use drones to just fly around and see if they have disease, or you can even like predict things. And so you waste less money and you're also more sustainable for the environment, because if you can predict something in advance, you're not losing your crops or like these sort of things. So from this point of view, yeah, it's, what do you say? You're a crop scientist as well. I don't know.
I think, yeah, I think for me, like crop science. So for me, basically, what I do, I think I'm fortunate enough to able to have both experience, like in the molecular biology side and also work in physiology. So, but majority of my work is always in the lab, because like what I mentioned earlier, my experience is more studying like what this gene does, and then what if I knock it out, what if I overexpress this kind of gene, what does it do? So I think crop science is really a big field. So you want to see it into, like, bring it into application, and like if you are just working in the lab itself, you can't see the result, and you will have to really see like what does it do, like in real life. So, and at the same time, if you are just planting in a glass house, you don't really mimic like the real environment in the field as well. So a lot of times, like crop science, like me and Charlotte, when we are working, we deal with a lot of people, not only molecular science, like also plant breeders and then modelers as well. So, and a lot of bioinformatics as well. So there's a lot of prediction modeling, and yeah, it's a very big field. And I think in my PhD experience, I'm very fortunate to be able to work with a few of them. And that's, I think, yeah, so it really, you have to extend yourself, not only like in your little small confined like expertise, but you just have to expand yourself more and have more different experience.
So my PhD is about 3 years plus. It's pretty long a time, but it's still not long enough for me to witness the whole translation from A to Z. But I will tell you what I personally have experienced. So at the beginning of my research, of my PhD, I had the opportunity to actually go to the field. I'm very thankful for my supervisor, Ala, and also the vet that I'm working with, Dr. Geoffrey. He is very keen to bring me to the field and let me witness and see everything, and also talking to the farmers so that I can understand how important is my research, and also give me a direction and the drives to see the values in my research and see it is going to be beneficial to the farmers, to the field. And yep, we do have some results now, but I think going forward, it's more on like simplify it and so that it can be done at the field. I think this is more on what Harry is doing, like his goal. Yeah, I wish this is something, I wish this can be something that it's going to happen to my research as well. Like we will simplify it so that it can be done at the field, and some sort of collaboration between the scientists and the farmers at the field as well.
All right, great. And I think we've got time for just like 2 more questions. So I'll direct this next question to Professor Tabor. How do you get involved? Like how do you get involved? Like if you're wanting to do a PhD, or if you're wanting to go out and pursue research in agriculture, what are the steps you'd take, or like who do you speak to?
Most people have just looked at people's profiles on the QAAFI website and then just sent emails saying, I really like blah, blah that you do, or this that you do. And that is the best way. I mean, we are at some of the honours fests that they have every so often. But QAAFI as an institute is an in-faculty of science. So if people want to do honours, that's fine too. It just means your honours main supervisor has to be in a school. I'm an affiliate of the SCMB, so I can enroll honours because I'm an affiliate. But if someone isn't with the school, and they have to find someone in the school. So honours is there. It's just QAAFI isn't an honours enrolling body because we don't have undergraduate. But that's how most people do it. It is better to do an honours with somebody that you hope to do a PhD with. It's just better practice for both sides, the supervisors and the student, to see if it's workable relationship, if possible. But I don't think people know about us when they're looking for honours projects so much. So I don't know how to make that happen. Like, that's hard.
And
Yeah, so guys, on this slide, I just put up a few opportunities if you are interested in not only doing a PhD, but get a scholarship, for example. There are a few entities that you can always follow, like the Crawford Fund. We have Charlotte, who has experience on that. We have Meat and Livestock Australia, who also offers studentships, I think they're called, or like postgraduate awards. CSIRO is also a way of getting either a top-up scholarship. Look out for career opportunities and more. For me, my favorite is always to have a few people online on the socials and following up, because you probably will find most opportunities don't get posted on the job websites. You most likely will have to reach out to the researchers, to people in industry. Make sure you follow them. There are plenty of farmers, plenty of people in industry on Twitter. It's just so very engaging to actually follow them and see whenever they share pictures of their properties or of the landscape of the things they're doing. I can definitely see the passion for agriculture that they have, and they're happy to share with everyone. So make sure you follow a few hashtags there: plant side jobs, animal side jobs, PhD opportunities, with all of that good stuff. Anyone else that wants to add something?
I'll open the floor up to Q&A right now so that you guys can get all your burning questions answered.
Online or in
Yes,
person?
so yeah, for those of you in the audience, are there any questions?
Just to Yastika, you mentioned you found the dry lab a bit difficult, but yeah, could you just go into that? What did you? Because I'm into like bioinformatics, so like yeah, I just wanted to I haven't really done too much of it, you know. I just wanted to get your perspective.
Hi. So what I did was I got a winter research scholarship thingy from SCMB as well. So I used to work with Dr. Zita Zora in level 7 IMB. So my project was basically dealing with the antimicrobial properties of water. And after that, I did this course called Sci 3260. So that's where I was dealing with the physical and chemical properties of water as well. So what my project encompasses was, it was entailing was that I had a lot of ICP MS and ICP OES data. So I had to analyze that. And I used to work with, it's basically mostly like analyzing data and interpreting what the concentration of silver was present in the silver coated glass molecules and the antimicrobial properties of water. It's been a while, but it was mostly, interpreting data and going through some coding stuff, which was already there. I just processed it. That's it. I didn't do any coding. I was there in the office. I went, I had my data. I had to analyze and say, okay, this water sample had this much concentration of chlorine. This silver coated glass has this, is actually whether it has antimicrobial properties or not. That's it. So I had all the data and I was analyzing it. So it was just a 4-month project. That's what I covered. And I realized that, no, I want to work in the lab. So yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, if you are interested in bioinformatics, and I'm not sure what stage you're at, but QAAFI has plenty of summer and winter research programs. And also honours in our lab, we're chasing bioinformaticians left, right and centre. So if you're interested, come have a chat to me.
Just was gonna say, we always have too much data than we have people to actually deal with it. It's true.
Also, I wanted to add that as an undergrad, you probably just scrap the surface of bioinformatics. The lecturers do everything for you. But when you go into these projects, your master's or PhD, you actually learn from the ground. And you kind of have to be very proactive towards getting those skills. So I would recommend you guys invest time in learning either Python or R Studio. What else is there? I need Linux, yeah.
I was gonna add, so I did this, so if you are doing in your 3rd year or 2nd year, you will be doing all these courses called genomics and biostatistics and everything. And that's basically a crash course of, I learned Galaxy and other R coding as well. But then yes, it's nothing compared to once you are in doing the project, it's nothing compared to what you have done.
Yeah, guys, so summer is coming. Just make sure you brush up on those skills, spend some time learning how to code. It will really benefit you in the long term.
Just one thing to add for you. It's if you are still unsure like whether you will like dry lab or wet lab, it's always okay to, when you email a supervisor, tell them you want to have both experience. It's always customizable. Yep.
Next question, guys. Any other questions out there? Yes.
Hello, I'm doing 1st year agricultural biotech, and I was just wondering if there's any jobs out there for the undergrad level. Like, I know you guys are doing like honours and PhDs, but I was just wondering if there's any, if you like, yeah.
Great question.
That's a tough one. So I'm not sure if you've looked into them, but the summer and winter research programs are paid. That's correct, isn't it? Yep. So they are paid if you get a scholarship. So that's one opportunity. You get the lab experience plus you get paid. Outside of that, it depends on your field of interest. It really depends what you're interested in doing and what skills you can bring. Yeah, that's about all I can add from that one.
When I went to Beef Week, actually, it was very interesting to see that they are keen on taking on people that just want to go to cattle stations and just, learn the real life skills. If you can afford to go there on a summer, on a winter, why not trying it? Probably you will realize whether actually being in the field is for you or whether you might just prefer to go, go back in the lab. So definitely, I would say reach out to people. And well, as a 1st year, I was also probably pretty scared to, even contact people out there, but great opportunity if you can score one of those winter or summer research scholarships too.
As well. So I'm also a first year studying biotechnology. I'm a medical biotechnology major, but I guess like my whole attitude is the worst that can happen if you reach out to people is that they ignore your message, right? Because if they go, no one's going to go through the effort to like tell you no, right? So I guess I just keep knocking on the door, because this year I've found a way to get myself like a little bit of a research opportunity at the AIBN. But to get there, I had to send at least 50 emails, send emails to the same person again and again. And yeah, one day they'll eventually see you knocking, and they might be a little bit annoyed at first, but the worst that can happen is that they ignore you. So, and there's so many researchers out there who are really passionate about undergrads, especially joining the lab, because, from their point of view, they want to get more researchers in the future going under their supervision. So yeah, just email as many people as possible. Yes.
Yeah, I agree to what Vish said. Just that, so if you email your lecturers, right, they will be very happy to have you on board and actually give you some learning experience, which you might eventually require when you do your honors or something. And if you have more skills, it's all about like during your summer or winter, just knock at the door or send an email. Hello, I like your project and I do want to learn this skill. Would you be able to help me out? It's not about looking for a job. It's looking for what skills you can get in a short period of time and throughout your entire bachelor's degree. Because at the end, people would want to see how much skills you have. They wouldn't see that, okay, this is where you have worked. So, it's about the skills. Yeah.
And one thing I noticed is like in agriculture, they're not going to be looking at your GPA. They're not going to be looking at you whether you graduated with first class honors, because in reality is that agriculture, they need people that are keen to work, that they have the attitude and they're willing to help them out. So.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
There's just a question from online. So they said, are there any intern opportunities for offshore students? Unfortunately, I cannot pursue a summer research project due to constraints with my master's biotech Res X course. So
yes, so unfortunately, the summer scholarship deadlines are over. So it was due on 27th of September. And if you go to the project list, you would find some online summer projects available. It mostly deals with bioinformatics, but yeah, there are a few courses or projects available, but you got to keep up with the projects. And you can also see what type of, so when the professors, they put in a project, they actually look for particular students, and you can also see whether you got those skills or not, and then you can email them. So yeah, in short, yeah.
Sometimes we describe what the research is and that I put a sentence saying you can do all these different types of things in this project and it's for negotiation. So, but people don't often get excited about venereal disease, so I don't get many requests there.
Oh, perfect. Any more questions on? Yeah. So if there weren't any more questions on, I'll open the floor. Was there any more questions out in the audience? Yes. Quickly take this.
Just for Albert, I think you mentioned that you did some work before your PhD, and you were glad you did it, and you wouldn't change that you did it. So like, what kind of work did you do? Did you work in the industry, or what kind of stuff did you do?
So I spent a few years working for two companies. So both of them are like in agriculture science companies. So one is called DevGen, which eventually got bought over by Syngenta, and Syngenta is another big company which deal with like chemicals and seeds. And so for me, I was working in the seed section. So what I did, I have some experience like working in developing like drought tolerant rice varieties. And so there's a bit of glasshouse works like this. They have a small team in Singapore at the time when I was working in Singapore, and they were like, so I have experience in working in the glasshouse, working with different authorities, like, you need to import, because they are genetic modified seeds. You have to then I learned some skills like such as, what kind of certificate you need to apply for importing into the country, exporting out to the country as well. And also when I was working, and then when I went over to Syngenta, I also have like good experience, sort of like travel to some of the hybrid seeds production area for the big company. Like for example, I went to a research station in Hyderabad in India to see how like every time when we were doing those lab work. So for me, I work in the analysis department where we're looking at genetic information, like whether certain batches of seeds, whether they pass like certain purity, like whether this, so there's a lot of like Q&A for the QC for their products, like whether they meet certain purity that can be sold to farmers and all those kind, and also GM products as well. So certain, you know, like roundup seeds and all those, that you have to make sure like, oh, these crops that have only this transgenes that's inside this crop. It's like sort of this kind of analysis. So I learned a huge bunch of stuff like working in the industry. So I think it's good experience if you manage to get into the industry to get and yeah, you can learn a lot of things, and all this thing actually helps when I start my PhD. When I start my PhD, I really know a bunch of like what's going on in the industry, and now I'm going back to the basics, like really behind the scenes, and then working on studying very specific things like genes and all these things. So yeah, I think it's really up to you. Like if I finish, for me, I started my honors. I think that's one of my best decision that I did my honors, because from there onwards, it really built my confidence in like doing in research, and it also, yeah, it's just adds on everything. So yeah, that's basically everything.
Great, and looks like it's just about 4 o'clock. So yeah, that should bring us to a close if everyone was happy. And I'm sure there's some food outside. Oh, yes. Yes, there's one more slide. And yeah, before we get finished, say, like everyone on Zoom and also in the audience, if you guys could please just scan that QR code and give us some feedback, because it just helps make the next event more helpful, more useful, makes the discussions more productive for you guys as well. And yeah, I believe there's some food outside, so I'll call this meeting to a close. And if you guys have any more questions, I'm sure like we'll all be sticking around just like a few minutes. So like feel free to like come up, speak to some of us. Great way to get networking. But yeah, I really hope that that's sparked your passion for agricultural biotechnology, and really look forward to you guys as you progress throughout your journeys.
One last thing, guys, if you are interested on getting involved in QAAFI, don't forget that you can reach us out in our socials or directly to me, e.mantilla@uq.net.au. And yeah, for any follow-up questions, I'm happy.
But yeah, thank you so much for the panelists for being here. Like, it's been really great to have your insight and all of your knowledge and secrets from within the industry. So yeah, could I please grab a round of applause for the panelists? Yeah, that should bring us to the end of it. So yeah, go and enjoy the food outside.